Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Running in Circles podcast. Joining me in this episode is a familiar face, a familiar voice. Please welcome to the podcast, Nikhil.
Hi everyone, hi Pallav. It's good to be back here. It's been a long time, I think, longer than before. But
Yeah, yeah, it's been a long time. Usually I do it around the winter break, but it's been quite some time since I restarted.
and it's the first for me, with it being just you and me, right? Like it's usually there's
Yeah,
someone else as well, so that's also going to be interesting this time.
yeah. Usually it's two or three people, but everyone's busy these days, so we gotta keep the episodes moving. So in today's episode, we're gonna talk about something that most of our generation has started is sort of living into. Most of our generation, people in their early 20s, they've started earning, and of course, like when you start your career, it's like a very joyous occasion, right? Like all your efforts that you've put throughout your life that is finally coming into fruition, and you've dreamt of this, you've earned this, so you start earning money. But that teaches you a lot of things. You sort of do it, understand, and spend it in your own way. So let's talk about things related to money in this episode. So to start off with, you know how did we spend our first salary, for example? um, So, personally, what I got in my first salary, most of it, I gave it to my parents, and, some of it as a donation to a temple. That's been like the norm, or that's been the tradition. Um, that's been my value with my family. So that's what I did my first salary. But, I was very happy when I got my first paycheck. Um, that first paycheck was, of course, went into family and temple. But with my second paycheck, I finally felt like, wow, I can spend. This is money which I earned, and I can finally spend the money. So, yeah, with my second paycheck, I actually spent it on Valorant skins. What do you think, Nikhil?
I didn't realize that was your second paycheck. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty defining moment, right, in your life when you finally have money that you've earned yourself. Then you have the full right to decide what to do with. I think I don't remember specifically if it was the first or the one of the first, but I
Hmm.
knew my priorities were in a particular order. I
Hmm.
wanted to buy something for my parents, both my mom
Hmm.
and my dad.
Hmm.
I think I ended up buying my dad a phone and my mom a smartwatch or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to buy a full-fledged flagship phone for myself because I had always been using mid-range cheaper phones or past
Yeah.
hand-me-down phones, and
Hmm.
and like I'm still huge into Android and phones and stuff. So that was one purchase for me, and then I wanted to buy something for my mom and my dad.
Yeah. I mean, buying stuff for parents is like something which feels so good now, because they've played such a major role up until this point, and it feel
Absolutely.
yeah, it feels good when
It feels
buying
like
something.
you're paying them back. Which
Yeah,
is not, which it's funny because I think I'm sure your parents are the same as mine when I
hmm.
say they will not appreciate that take at all, right?
Yeah,
They don't want to be paid back, but like
yeah,
that's not the same way we view it. And it's funny because it's the same way in every generation, so
yeah.
it's nothing new.
Yeah. So that's what. So they're bad at accepting money. So you sort of want to give something to them. So yeah, sure they must have felt happy with the smartphone and the smartwatch. Um, so you know that is like part of your initial earnings. But after all that, after paying your parents back, and or paying your loans back, you still like your money is only your wealth is only going to keep increasing, right? Because with job stability, with pay raise and everything. So uh, you sort of have some money to spare, and you sort of want to spend that money in some way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I mean, It's a very, I feel like something that's been taught to all of us, especially in Indian households, that
Hmm.
saving money for a rainy day is your first mission. And
Yeah.
sort of in general, spending in itself is discouraged a lot. And
Yeah.
so growing up in that sort of an environment, it was very hard for me to transition into, like, even when I started making money enough that I could spend it on whatever I want, I would be very reluctant to do that. Right? It
Hmm.
took me a while before I sort of opened up to the idea that, yeah, I can and I should be spending this on things that make me happy. Right. So
Hmm.
that's my sort of view there, is that if something makes you happy and you can afford it, you
Yeah.
should absolutely buy it, because money will come and go, but we're all living to be happy and to be
Yeah.
satisfied with our lives, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the way I view it is, money is a part, like forget the value. Money is just, I just view money as effort. Like I've put in the effort, so I've got this. And, I would just spend money not to like live a lavish lifestyle or something. I just want to spend money in such a way that I can just sort of have my own peace, or like as you said, be happy. Um, and it goes to simple things. For example, when I was a student, I would live in a shared house, right? Because money is a problem, and I gotta adjust. But now that I have money and now that I have savings, I feel like it's better for my peace and for my, like I'll be more happy when I'm living in a single room, and like I have like I'm peace with my thoughts, and there's less noise around me. So I feel like again, I'm not even improving my lifestyle drastically. I'm just these simple changes is where I feel like I will spend my money now
Yeah,
and in
and
the future.
I I actually think your lifestyle is changing, right? Because
Hmm.
if you are forced to be in close proximity to people all the time by having a roommate,
Hmm.
it makes a huge difference to have your own space, to have your own private space for thoughts, and being able to handle your own emotions and thoughts much better when you have your own private space. So yeah, it does change your lifestyle. And so I would say it's completely worth it, both,
Yeah.
from a point of view that it makes you happier, but also from a point of view that it actually adds value to your life.
Yeah, it like exactly. So, with this, with by spending money this way, I feel like I can like work sort of at a more productive pace. I have my own space to do other things as well. I have my own space to play video games, which I'm sure you might have a few things to say. Um,
Finally, no sleeping roommate, huh?
yeah, no more sleeping roommates when I'm playing now. So it's again these subtle, excuse me, these subtle changes is where I feel I'm going to improve my life by spending the money. But of course, not everybody spends money in the same way, right? Everybody has their own lifestyle choices. Some people might want to spend it on parties. Some people, might want to make donations with it. Some people might want to buy a house with it. So for you, what is something like? How do you decide whether should I spend money on this or not?
I actually have very, interesting and unique thoughts about this, because I recently helped my parents move into a bigger apartment, right? And that actually got me thinking on spending, right? They were willing to spend more money on rent to live in a nicer place, but they did not think that spending money on movers and getting it all handled by other, professionals was worth it, right? And
Mm,
so the idea that, and this might be more of an Indian thing or an Asian thing, but
mm,
the idea that spending money on convenience is wasting money is very prevalent, right? So
yeah.
that that is an area I think everyone can really use some thought in terms of
Mm,
deciding what's worth it, right? Like one of the things I do
mm,
is I know how much money I make. You
mm,
divide it by how much work you do in terms of hours, and you get your
mm,
hourly rate, right? Your
yeah.
hourly rate, let's say that's $50 or something.
Mm,
Um, anything that takes 1 hour that you can save, you should be willing to spend that much money,
mm,
$50 or a hundred
mm,
dollars or whatever your hourly rate is, to
mm,
save an hour, because that is how much money you are losing
mm,
by doing it yourself and trying to quote unquote save the $50.
Hmm. Got it. Um, so I agreed. Like, you know, I see your point on how you decide to spend your money. Um, for me, I feel like I'm similar in a way. Like again, like I also grew up with this mindset that spending you should feel like it's almost as if you should feel guilty for spending money. I've sort of grown out of it now. And again, as you said, like I know what my earnings are so far. I know how much predicted earnings of mine will be in like a month or like in 2 weeks from now. So I just spend if it's convenient to me. And um, so far like anything that involves family and friends, I'm spending without any thoughts. Like I'm like when I was back at Bangalore, I'm just waiting for moments to like spend time with friends because I'm so rarely back at home spending that quality time with friends. So spending if anything is involved related to family or friends, then I easily I don't think twice about
It's
spending.
it sounds like a cliche, right? But like
Yeah.
especially for people who've just started earning, spending
Hmm.
money on others feels more satisfying than spending money on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Like of course, I'm taking care of my needs, but there is like I still have something extra that I feel like if I spend money on other people, that would make me also happy as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's an emotion that I felt very strongly when I spent a year in India last year.
hmm,
I had a chance to be alone. Like usually I have my parents and my brother with
hmm,
me whenever I visit relatives and stuff like that,
hmm,
right? But
hmm,
um that last year I had a chance to do that myself, and I found a lot of opportunities where I felt like what was very sort of reasonable amount of money to me could be used to make so many people happy, right?
hmm,
Like, buying something that someone needs for them, right? It's not even about giving them the money. It's about the fact that you care enough about them to know what they need and to go out and get it for them, right? That's very
hmm.
satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, going back to the same thing, like when I was spending time back at home, again, like you know, like I take I take inspiration when my parents and grandparents try to save money on simple things. It is inspiring, but also again like when it's necessary I sort of do that. But for example, like to talk about one story here. I had to take my grandpa to the dentist, and he was like, okay, let's go from scooter. um and I was like, yeah, we can take a scooter, but you're pretty old. I feel like let's just book a cab, let's just book an auto, and we'll go by that. you know Grandpa got pretty angry at me. He's like, no, no, we're going by scooter and everything. I was like, no, this is just convenience. Don't worry. There is enough money in the house now. Let's just take a auto, take a cab. It's convenience. You're pretty old. Let's just do this. You don't have to go through the bumpy rides through the scooter. So again, it's like these simple things um, which I want to spend on. Um,
Yeah, I think I think your mistake there was pointing out that your grandpa was pretty old.
yeah,
There's no way he will accept your logic after that.
yeah. That's what. So again, like he was a little angry at me. He's like, we have a scooter at home. Let's go by scooter. Why simply spend money on an auto ride? I was like, no, you're old. We're not taking you through a bumpy road. So let's
Yeah,
just go by.
and if you notice, right, there are
Hmm.
so many sort of financial assumption or axioms that have been passed down by our families, right? That's
Yeah.
typical for
Yeah.
Indian families.
Exactly.
Like you said, saving money is the primary sort of way you want to use your money, right? You have to save
Hmm.
it for a rainy day.
Hmm. Hmm.
But in the same way, so there are some tips that are very useful and help you manage money really well and set
Hmm.
you up with habits that will serve you well, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there are also things that you have to unlearn. Like for example,
Yeah.
you should be willing to spend on convenience and saving time and energy and effort on your side because
Yeah.
you don't want to be burnt out. You don't want to be worried too much. Like if you're already busy at work, you want to be
Hmm.
using money that you earn there to make your life at all the other times more comfortable.
Hmm. Exactly. So, you know, the money that is yours, you've earned it. It's the fruits of your hard work. So, might as well enjoy the sweet taste of it. Again, not again, spending, savings, both are pretty important. But again, over the years, looking at, what the way I grew up and the way I can grow up now, I feel like, so many of these concepts have changed over the years. And again, as you said, so many, again, the concepts which were inbuilt in me, that is purely from parents and grandparents. But, and again, they've taught a lot of lessons, like, shouldn't what store all your eggs in the same basket. I'm sure we've
Yeah.
all heard that.
And
Uh,
there are some examples of like bad pieces of information that were passed down, right? Like one
yeah.
example is I've heard that a credit card is a recipe for disaster.
Oh,
That you
absolutely. Yeah.
you get a credit card that your spending goes completely out of control and you're going to be in
Yeah.
debt and you're going to be paying interest payments for the rest of your life.
But
That's
yeah.
one. The
Mm.
other one is you're always sort of pressure towards investing in safe and less risky investments. Like
Like
FDs are all
FDs.
the rage,
FDs are so
right?
common. Yeah.
Nobody talks about investing in the stock market or investing even in mutual funds, which are much safer
Yeah.
than just investing in
Correct.
direct stocks. But right,
Mm.
so these are some pieces of advice that we have to unlearn. But like you said, some of the uh, sort of things that are passed down come from really good intentions, and there is probably something to learn and retain from them.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you brought this thing of FDs, right? So again, like we've all learned that lesson. We've all been taught that lesson, I would say, that, fixed deposits are the safest. Your money stays at the bank, it's liquid, you can withdraw the money anytime you want, the interest rates are fixed, there is no risk involved. Agreed, it's a very safe option. But when you see the inflation rate, which is at, again, for an example, 7%, and then when you see the um, bank interest rate, which is at 5%, you sort of realize that I'm actually going to lose some money here, right? So you want to invest on like slightly higher returns, but again, you don't want to invest all your money there, right? So mutual funds, stock markets, bonds. So again, these are some of the lessons which I read about or learned through my father.
Yeah, I think one of the things there is finding the right balance that's suitable and appropriate for your sort of lifestyle, right? Like
Mm.
it's very hard to decide. It's very easy to get advice like, oh, you should put money in the stock market, you should buy mutual
Crypto.
funds, yeah, all sorts of advice.
Mm.
You get it from all over the place, right? So
Yeah.
filtering that and deciding what's best for you,
Mm.
honestly, and being bothered enough to do your research and be informed enough to make a good choice. That's really the challenge that everyone our age, I think, at one point will face or
Mm.
has faced.
Mm.
Right. And moving on from there to actually regularly course correcting, right? Because what
Mm.
you decide for now might not be the best path. Like if the stock market were to crash right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
tomorrow you wouldn't say that, oh, you should have bought stocks or something, right? Like
Yeah.
it consistently changes with a lot of different variables. So being on top of it, like it's even like a second job, I'd say. Like you have your primary job, but you also have to manage your money so
Mm.
that at the very least you don't lose money to inflation, but
Mm.
at least in an ideal sense, you want your money to work for you.
Yeah. That's what. So work enough and then ultimately let the wealth do the job, right? That's what they
Yeah.
say, right? Like earn enough money so that you can just live off the interest or something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And early retirements, you hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
You set a goal for yourself, and once you hit it, you get to kick back and enjoy life, and
Mm.
that's a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah. Okay. So to bring this episode to an end, what is like your when will you reach that moment where you're like, okay, now I've got everything which I want, and now I can just take the day off or like just enjoy the rest of my life without working.
I think the goal, actually, for everyone should be to feel that way every day, even if you're working, right? Like even if you're
Mm.
I feel like everyone has something that they love doing. If
Yeah.
you have something that you love doing, that's what you should be aiming to
Mm.
do,
Mm.
right? So you should be, it's the goal of life is not to work until you can enjoy life. You should
Yeah.
be enjoying life throughout, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say that I would feel right now I'm actually very grateful for the situation that I'm in. I have a stable job and uh I'm very happy with the work that I do. I enjoy the work that I do.
Mm.
Uh, I remember every day to not to take that for granted because that is really the ideal that everyone should be pursuing. And you know what? If that job if what you do does not pay enough to maintain a lifestyle that you want, you
Mm.
should downsize that. You shouldn't sacrifice 8 or 9 or 10 hours of the day that you're actually working. It's a
Yeah.
significant part of your life. Don't sacrifice that to spend a little bit more money to uplift your lifestyle just because you want to keep up with others or people your age or whatever.
Yeah, 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 agreed. I phrased the question wrong. What I meant to say was, what is like your dream financial achievement? Again, career satisfaction is like keeping career satisfaction aside.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. So in
Yeah.
that case, I would say, you know what, in this current sort of market, I would say being in a position to own your own home is
Mhm.
really the ideal that everyone our age will be striving
Yep.
to achieve, just
Correct.
because
Yeah.
of the absolutely terrible real estate market in every country, or
Every
maybe not,
country, exactly.
at least not, no, maybe not every country, but at least in the US and in India both, it's a terrible time to be a buyer of your first home. So
Exactly.
that I think expectations have come down so much. Like we forget about a mansion and a pool and all that. We just want a house and a place to
Yeah,
live.
exactly. Like again, most of us are starting to work, or are 2 3 years into working now, but you still see the prices of real estate, and then you compare it with how many years will it take you to get there. There is quite a drastic imbalance, right? So again, as you said, buying a house is of course my dream as well. um but the other dream which I have, which is again like a very small dream, which is um again, like, for me, two things are very important: career satisfaction and the people I'm around with. That is also pretty important. So, I imagine playing video games with our friends group until I'm 60. So to help me live that dream, I want to have like a own custom PC, with, like, 64 gigs of RAM and like the best graphics card, whichever is out, whichever will be there in the future. And I just want to have a good time until I'm 60 and play with video games with you guys. So again, I have these simple financial goals which I want to achieve, for that. So do you think we're going to be playing video games till 60, Nikhil?
Oh, 100%. And you know what? The dream that you described, I don't actually think that should be a dream, because I'm sure within the next year you will be in a very good in a position, like you've graduated with your masters, and you're in a position to just any job you get right now will put you in a position to achieve that dream. And I think that's also pretty important, right? You shouldn't set something that's like completely unrealistic as
Mm.
your financial dream, because
Mm.
that will just force you to make some poor decisions, right? Like I wouldn't imagine being uh or the owner of a huge car collection or something like that. That
Same,
would that
yeah.
would make me really happy, but that's not realistic, right? I would
Mm.
imagine, for me, it's just like having a house, a place where I can work on my car, having a good car. Like that would be sort of the very reasonable and achievable dream that I'm still working towards.
Exactly. Like, again, as a person, I don't think, like, even if I have, you know, more money than I can imagine, I still don't think I would spend money on like buying fancy cars. I still feel like I would just buy like a normal, like a good car, and spend that money on happiness. Like, uh, and 2 3 cars, I don't think really makes much of a difference to me. So I would still spend money on things which make me happy and the people around me happy. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's what it is, right? Everyone,
hmm,
I mean that this is literally how every human brain works, which is you spend and you make decisions that ultimately give you feelings of happiness, right? It's
hmm,
purely biological, even if you think deep enough about it. It's just the brain wants the happy hormones, and
yeah,
it will make all the decisions, butterfly effect and all that, all the decisions that will lead it there. That's what it is. And so
yeah,
if something makes you happy, it might not make me happy, and vice versa, right?
yeah. Agreed. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the episode.
If you
Any
want to
closing?
end, if you want to end this with a piece of advice for anyone listening, it should be, and this is what no one would think is at the end of an episode with financial planning as in its name. It would be you should spend money on whatever makes you happy. Don't think twice about it. Whatever you can
Yeah,
afford, you should spend on whatever makes you happy.
yeah. And spend money. It's not wrong to spend money. You've earned it. You've put your effort through it. You've put in efforts for 20 years of your life to get to the stage
You
of where you
deserve
are.
it.
You deserve it. So enjoy it. Not if you want to party, you can party. If you want to,
Whatever makes you happy, right?
yeah,
Enjoy
just do
it while
whatever
being
makes you
happy.
happy. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Cheers then. Bye.
Cheers.